The goddess turned to the hero with a request to save this dying world, and her voice sounded unusually calm in the silence. And the hero gave him everything he had, realizing that such a decision would forever change his future fate and destroy the usual peace. The wounded boy looked around, thinking that the battle was over, and quietly asked the girl about the whereabouts of his remaining comrades. But the hero stopped abruptly and coughed up blood, feeling how his body gradually stopped obeying his exhausted commands. His eyes rolled back. His body didn't obey him, and the boy realized that his strength was finally leaving his weakened body. The sky was an inappropriately cloying pink for the situation, as if mocking the hero's suffering at the last moment. Falling to the ground, the hero sighed in pain and fatigue, feeling the world around him slowly dissolve. His eyes began to close, and the boy felt that sleep was becoming the only possible salvation from the torment. And he simply asked to let him sleep a little, hoping that a short rest would restore at least some of his lost strength. In total, the guy had 55 regressions, incarnations, and reincarnations, each leaving a deep mark on his memory. And again, it all ended with the hero dying like a dog. Unable to complete the next task assigned to him, the girl began to approach the guy, noting that this time he held out for quite a long time, surprising her calm. The words confused the protagonist because he held out for quite a long time sounded strange after such a painful and prolonged death. Before him stood a goddess. She was beautiful and all shining as if she herself was glowing with a soft inner radiance. She wondered if perhaps this time the rebirth would finally take place, since such an event had not happened for a long time. Believe it or not, this emotionless being is a goddess who has been watching over the hero for countless cycles. The very creature that kidnapped the hero, depriving him of his usual life and peaceful existence forever. It was so long ago that the hero no longer remembers, but it was then that the goddess first kidnapped him without explanation. And then out of the blue, she told the hero to find and save the world by throwing him into another dimension. Over 55 cycles of regressions, incarnations, and reincarnations, the hero suffered so much that he forgot the means of his own death. In the end, he never found a single clue about what this mysterious and incomprehensible effort was. The hero yelled at the goddess, declaring that he could not take it anymore, and demanded that she search for the ford on her own without the participation of her exhausted body. But the goddess declared that she could not do this because such an action would lead to the inevitable destruction of the world. And when the guy said he would go crazy, the girl replied that the restoration of his mind and body was functioning normally. While she is right, no matter how terrible a hero's death was, his mind and body were always fully restored here. But the painful memories of the pain the hero experienced with each death came back to him again and again. The goddess continued that they should begin preparing for the next cycle because another regression was coming up. The protagonist yelled, "Fuck her." But the goddess replied that her body was biologically female, so the request was impossible. But suddenly, the goddess said that it was a joke, and her expression for a moment became almost human and soft. The hero has done everything he could in the role assigned to him, and can now finally rest in peace after his torment. The hero has more than earned the right to return to his world because he has gone through incredible trials and suffering. The guy was shocked because everything ended unexpectedly despite the fact that he had failed to save the world 55 times. The goddess smiled, saying that in this task, the process was more important than the result. So, the hero had nothing more to worry about. The main character shouted, "No, wait, stop," because he still had a lot of questions that required immediate explanation. As he moved away, he shouted that the goddess would simply say whatever she wanted and throw him out, calling her crazy. The goddess said in conclusion that she would expect great achievements from the hero there, too, as if she sincerely believed in him. A bright light illuminated the darkness, and the hero felt his consciousness rapidly disappearing somewhere far and deep. A scream was heard. "Kunhan bit. Mom is leaving for work." And the guy abruptly returned to the reality of his world. The guy stood up wheezing because his stomach was bursting with pain, and his body barely obeyed his weak movements. 18 months have passed since the hero returned to the real world, trying to get used to ordinary life. He went through so many regressions, incarnations, and reincarnations that he almost forgot his real life, but his memory returned. It's amazing how quickly Mom left for work, as if nothing unusual was happening around the exhausted hero. Damn, just think. The goddess kidnapped the hero the day before the summoning, completely changing his future destiny. And so, 18 months flew by, and yesterday, the hero was demobilized, finally receiving his long-awaited freedom. If you count how many times the hero had to serve in the army during regressions, incarnations, and reincarnations, you get an incredible number. This was his 6th business trip, of course, because the goddess did not give him the slightest rest or peace. Adjusting to modern life is damn hard, and it's all the fault of that damn goddess who ruined his destiny. The hero worked like crazy to get this internship, but how long would his strength last in this state? The guy received messages. Today, we're having a blast again. Yes. And he sighed heavily from the accumulated fatigue. The main character replied that he was crazy. His young was already old and tired, so such a proposal sounded completely ridiculous. But they answered him that this was all a hero could do, calling him a coward, again provoking him with words. In the end, the hero was grateful to his friend for looking after him when, having returned to the real world, he was again taken into the army. And then the guy was told that the drink thing was a joke and was offered a gift prepared especially for demobilization. In general, the hero even looked forward to a gift from this guy because such moments reminded him of normal life. A guy appeared at the ice cream table. It was Chu Yen-woo, 4 months older than the hero, but 5 years younger. They were walking around like that yesterday, and Hyun asked if Yen-woo was okay since he claimed that he was still quite young. And after the question about the gift, the friend said that he would be offended if the hero was interested only in the gift and not in the meeting. Then the protagonist turned around saying that it was fun and said goodbye, promising to see each other later in a calmer atmosphere. Then the guy finally handed over the card, reminding the hero of the story about a game called The Record Project. It was a level 2 RPI membership card that allowed you to get sync-enabled hardware to play from home. The guy said that this was his gift, so the hero should accept it calmly because such things are given from the heart. The card cost about 500,000, but for Hyun it was not a pity because he sincerely wanted to support the hero. Hyun asked if the hero needed a personal bodyguard, and his friend replied that there were plenty of free rooms, offering to move in if desired. But then the main character said that he found a job in 2017 because his family was now in a difficult financial situation. The guy blushed, asking if the main thing for the hero was really to earn money because that sounded too mundane. Hyun replied that it would be better to find another part-time job than to waste time on games that don't provide a stable income. And after Chu Yen-woo mocked him for not having any romance, the main character started to pull his hair out, saying that romance was useless. A friend said that it depends on how you play RPI because you can make a fortune in this game if you act wisely and confidently. They were talking about hundreds of millions, and the friend assured the hero seriously, showing that the game's possibilities were truly enormous. Hearing this, the protagonist calmed down, realizing that such sums could change his life and give him a chance for stability. And he sat down asking for forgiveness for his rudeness. Turning to Sergeant Chu Yen-woo and humbly asking for an explanation, the guy asked if the hero knew that RPG was developed by Team Zero, as this is an important part of understanding the game. Chu Yen-woo began explaining walkthroughs that help with clearing, and such services can be offered at almost any price. Even leading corporations invest huge amounts of money in creating professional teams, but individuals also have a chance. And after Hyun's answer to try the game, his friend beamed because such a decision gave the opportunity to start something new. He said that since the hero had taken such a big step, then why not? Because a chance to try is always worth taking advantage of. Wiping his mouth with his hands, Chu Yen-woo suggested that they go right now since delay would only delay the beginning of a new journey. The weather outside was clear and fine, creating a feeling of calm and anticipation before the important step. Hyun was outraged by the crowd, and his friend said that this was nothing compared to the crowds in Western and European countries. The guy grabbed the main character by the collar, saying that they needed to go here because time should not be wasted. First of all, you need to buy a guidebook for beginners because without it, the game will be too difficult and incomprehensible. A friend said that the hero has no idea how unfriendly Air Pie is to newcomers, demanding preparation and knowledge. A friend explained that the player behind the nickname was an adventurer, but he wrote a guide specifically for beginners, and without him, the game would be unbearable. Hun replied that he understood, suggesting that he at least look at the contents of the book before purchasing it to ensure its usefulness. The main character froze, and the guy asked in surprise what was wrong because the hero's reaction looked too serious. Hun heard the voice of the goddess saying that she expected great achievements from the hero, reminding him of the past and the unfinished path. The book said to find, and the hero realized that the connection between the worlds remains despite returning home for 2 years. The hero had been tormented by one question, and the goddess's words that she would wait did not give him any peace. He clutched the book tightly, realizing that the goddess had no intention of letting the hero go from the very beginning, leaving the path unfinished. Zhu Yanwu said that the character is too serious, asking if he is afraid that the game will be too difficult. Hun sighed, saying that it wasn't that, because he had a much more important question that required an immediate answer, and he asked if his friend knew anything about the Zero Team, because such information could be key. The friend replied that the current representative of Team Zero handles external affairs alone, and that she is Michael Welton's youngest daughter. He thought about it, finding it suspicious because the connection with that goddess could be much deeper than it seemed. But the hero didn't understand why the game was connected to this, because it seemed too strange. Suddenly, sadness was reflected in the protagonist's eyes because the memories of the past world still did not leave him. After all, the world the hero was sent to was not just a game, but a real reality full of pain and suffering. The disgust the hero felt when he killed for the first time remained in his memory forever, not allowing him to forget the experience. And that terrifying feeling when the hero died for the first time still surfaced in his consciousness, destroying his inner peace. And the despair of having to live that life over and over again still haunted the hero, tormenting his mind. The hero wondered whether it was right to return to a place where hell might await him again, since the memory of the past was still alive. Hyun pointed to the card and asked if it was possible to purchase equipment through it, specifying the estimated delivery time. Chu Yanwu said it would take about 2 hours since delivery was instant, asked for a phone, and installed the necessary applications. He offered to buy a new book since the old one was wrinkled, and the hero agreed, understanding the importance of a quality guide for beginners. Waving to his young, Chu Yanwu said that he would go in first, asked him to write immediately after creating an account, and promised to wait for his brother. The hero understood that rushing wouldn't speed up the arrival of the equipment, so he decided to calmly prepare for further action. When the hero approached the apartment, he saw a box at the door as if it had been delivered in advance and was waiting for its owner. He glanced at the labels and noted that it was a game console worth 5 million won. Surprised by the high price of the equipment, the hero threw all the parts onto the bed, trying to lay them out neatly so he could figure out the device without making any unnecessary mistakes. He began to study what went where, carefully checking each part to ensure the system was assembled correctly and no breakdowns occurred. The protagonist slammed the door shut, realizing that there was still some time to calmly prepare for the game before his mother arrived. He then put the bracelets on his hands, feeling a slight tingling sensation, as if the system was checking his condition before launching. Hyun lay in bed, fully equipped, trying to get used to the new sensations that felt realistic. The guy was surprised because the sensations turned out to be much more real than he expected, although it was only a mannequin in front of him. The hero noted the ability to customize his appearance and tried to change the parameters, but for some reason, the settings window did not appear. He decided it didn't matter and tried to reboot, wondering if the button he had selected was the correct exit option. But after pressing the button, everything around began to distort as if the system was switching to a different mode and opening up a new world. The system declared that such a character already existed and greeted the hero, inviting him to enter a familiar space. Seagulls were screaming in the sky, creating the feeling of a living world, as if the hero really found himself on the coast in the sea wind. The sound of the sea could be heard, rolling in waves, filling the air with the salty smell and the calm atmosphere of a port town. It was the port city of Eden, familiar to the hero from past regressions, and he felt a slight thrill of returning. Hun noted that he hadn't been here for a long time and felt a strange feeling, as if the past was catching up with him again in this place. Suddenly, the hero's attention was drawn to his game reflection, which appeared in the display case, as if deliberately showing a familiar image. He noticed with horror that the appearance was exactly the same as the last regression, as if no time had passed at all. The hero thought that this was a silent message from the goddess, hinting at the need to continue the unfinished path. His glove was filled with blood, as if reminding him of the pain he had endured in the past world and the weight of his past trials. The goddess told the hero to start all over again, not allowing him to forget about the unfinished mission and remaining obligations. Suddenly, a notification about being added as a friend arrived, distracting the hero from his heavy thoughts and returning his attention to the system. Letting go of past experiences, the hero switched to the lazy man's window, noting that the nickname belonged to Yen Wu, a familiar comrade. Suddenly, a joyful cry was heard calling out to his brother, confirming that the connection between the worlds remained and had not disappeared completely. The blonde said indignantly that he had asked to write immediately upon entering, and his displeasure sounded especially sharp in the silence of the room. The protagonist thought, trying to understand whether it was really Yan Wu standing in front of him, because what was happening seemed strange and unexpected. The friend chuckled and asked why the hero chose such an appearance, since almost no one leaves their real appearance in the game. Hun looked at his nickname, Black Dragon, and was surprised, wondering what kind of nickname was set by the system in advance. A friend behind him laughed, saying that the hero chose his nickname himself and was now surprised as if he was seeing it on screen for the first time. Despite Hyun's indignation, Yen Wu laughed as he explained that the nickname was embedded in the biometrics and could no longer be changed. The boy shouted, "Time out," asking his brother to check his notifications first, as the system might have sent important messages in advance. The protagonist didn't understand what notifications might appear, as he was just beginning to understand the game's interface. The notification stated that the hero's game would be broadcast on lower stream, and the system asked for consent. Yen Wu smiled, saying that he would take over the communication and the hero should simply play, dividing the profits equally between them. The protagonist gritted his teeth, realizing that he had no choice since the situation was not in his favor. He snorted, asking if he would get 5,000 and one if they made 1,000, trying to clarify the terms of the agreement. The guy beamed, offering the hero to trust him at least once since playing together could bring in a good income. Yen Wu greeted the audience by introducing his Black Dragon brother, who would be acting alongside him from today on. In the chat, they started greeting the newcomer, offering to rate his nickname, which viewers found funny and unusual. Everyone laughed, saying that someone had developed a late 8th grader syndrome because the hero's level was too low. The friend whispered to his brother to remain calm, as anger would only make the teasing worse, and the goal of the teasing was to make money. The chat continued, promising to show the hero real hate, as viewers love to provoke newcomers. The system offered to check the recommended skills by scanning the player and providing the 3 most suitable options for development. Hyen thought, remembering that over the course of 55 cycles, he had learned many techniques that could be useful in the new world. He clicked on the map, thinking how convenient it would be if the techniques he learned were turned into skills within the game. The friend ran closer, surprised that the hero was already looking at the skills and waiting with interest to see what exactly would fall to him. Suddenly, the heroes' faces were illuminated by a bright blue light, filling the space with a sense of magic and impending change. The cards began to clone themselves in the sky, creating a spectacular sight that could not have been predicted in advance. And the heroes remained below, watching what was happening, completely immersed in the unexpected and strange phenomenon. Their looks were filled with complete bewilderment, as this kind of system behavior did not correspond to normal game mechanics. Yenwu opened his mouth and drawled, asking how Hyun could do such a thing as the situation seemed unbelievable. The protagonist replied that he did not understand why he was being asked since he was not doing anything unusual at that moment. Hyun looked at his friend and asked what was going on, trying to understand the meaning of what was happening and the reason for the strange effects. For a while, my friend was simply silent at a loss for words, as what he saw completely threw him off his usual understanding of the game. And then he shouted that these were hidden skills that appeared extremely rarely and were considered incredibly valuable. He said that this was a real jackpot because there were not one or two hidden skills, but many more. Yenwu babbled that these weren't just recommendations because a lot of icons appeared on the screen that he had never seen before. Looking at the cards, Hun knew he could tell what they meant, as his experience from past cycles provided clues. And this was a good start because such skills could become the basis for the further development of the hero. We need to use this as a springboard to become stronger and relying on new opportunities to discover the differences between the worlds and to reveal the true intentions of the goddess, because her actions always seemed mysterious and required an explanation. To begin with, the hero decided to choose something safe, settling on fire magic as the most understandable direction. The protagonist asked Yenwu if he knew where to get quests because without them, skill development would be too slow. The friend was surprised, asking whether the hero had really decided to follow the path of magic since this direction was considered difficult. But the chat started to get hateful and Hyun asked what was going on, trying to figure out if magic was really considered a weak skill. A friend explained that the most important thing in the game is skill because magic is incredibly difficult to level up compared to other skills. He said that the star icon only appears when you reach max level, but before that point, progress cannot be seen. The protagonist remembered that he remembered this very well, because learning any skill requires talent and significant effort. But of all the skills, magic was especially difficult. So, it was even more important to choose the right mentor for training. The protagonist asked whether it was necessary to learn magic from someone, since it would be logical to assume that there was a teacher for such a skill. A friend explained that completing quests and earning achievements rewards a book that allows you to immediately learn the necessary skills. He said that NPCs have advanced artificial intelligence, but not enough to fully learn complex skills. Hun thought about the skill books, noting that everything had become too simple, as if the game was hiding something important. Lying on the ground, the protagonist asked the master if he could finish for the day as fatigue was becoming noticeable. The girl was yelling at the hero and ordering him to get up, and he thought that he had suffered much more in similar situations before. Hyun told his friend that it was time for them to go as they were heading to the store where they could buy the items they needed. A friend said that fire magic could simply be purchased from Yolio, a regular merchant who sold spell books to beginners. Hun was surprised since Yolio was considered a fraud and asked why he should go to him, and Yenwu said that he needed a spell book. The hero screamed that this bastard was a real piece of __, because spell books and similar things had always been a scam for him. Suddenly a donation came, and Yolio donated 1,000 won, declaring that he would sue and added that he was crying over what was happening. The boy beamed as he thanked Yolio for the 1,000 won donation, as such support seemed unexpected and pleasant. He turned to his friend saying that he had also earned about 5,000, and one calling him a hailing and encouraging him with words. The chat started laughing, noting how he was talking about offering to make money on hidden skills, considering the hero naive. He chuckled, saying that even though it was a small amount, it was still business since every amount mattered in the game. Hun exclaimed that even 1,000 won was valuable to him, and said that he would have saved 1,000 won if both had fallen into the water. A friend said that in any case, they need to go to Yolio for fire magic because without it, development will be too slow. He turned to Hun, asking why he was hesitating and trying to figure out what exactly the hero was doing at that moment. The protagonist asked if he really needed to find a master of magic and asked if his friend knew a suitable mentor. The photo featured a cell depicted in a vibrant style that immediately grabbed attention and created a sense of importance. Yenwu whispered that the joke was good, but if the hero continued in the same spirit, people would start to react too violently. The main character confidently said that this was not a joke because he was serious and had no intention of backing down from his words. He said he didn't know where his friend got this information from since for players, a cell was considered an ordinary quest character. He explained that such a character who is involved in fraud and theft ends up in prison and the player will never see her again. The protagonist sighed, saying that it didn't matter since it would be easier to show the result in person, offering to go to a cell. Viewers started writing that the joke was good, but it was starting to irritate them, asking why the hero was acting so stubbornly. After reading this, Hyun stated that they would then go to Yolio since the viewers were advising them to try that route. And everyone started writing that he was taking hints from viewers, offering 10,000 if Yolio turned out to be a fraud. He said that he could dance a striptease as much as he wanted because such jokes did not embarrass him in the presence of an audience. And he threw words to his friend, suggesting that he follow him since the path had been chosen and it was necessary to move on without delay. Hun explained that they were taking a shortcut because it would get them to the right place faster and avoid the crowd. A friend asked how Hun knew these routes and was surprised because the hero insisted that he was playing for the first time, calling it intuition. They approached a store that looked familiar and the atmosphere around it was reminiscent of past unpleasant events. The friend exclaimed that they had finally arrived, rejoicing that the journey had been short and had taken less time. There was a man named Yolio in the building who immediately noticed them and prepared to have a casual conversation with customers. The protagonist's fist immediately clenched as meeting this man brought back unpleasant memories of the past. This caused an unpleasant feeling because the hero remembered that Yolio was involved in questionable affairs and deceiving players. The protagonist asked what the level of interaction with NPCs was, trying to understand how freely one could act. Hun's eyes shone with anger because he remembered the past events and could not calmly look at Yolio after what he had experienced. Ian-Woo replied that there was so much freedom here that it was easier to find something that couldn't be done than to limit one's possibilities. He said that there is so much freedom that sometimes it can even block the player's progress in certain situations. The guy walked forward resolutely, preparing to deal with Yolio, because past grievances did not allow him to stand calmly nearby, and the man beamed as he greeted the dear customer, trying to look friendly despite the tense atmosphere. Suddenly, a hand grabbed the seller by the bow, and he became frightened, not understanding what was happening and why it happened so abruptly. Hun barked, asking if the man was doing the same, as his actions always aroused suspicion and anger. His eyes burned with anger, and he called Yolio an incurable piece of not hiding his rage at the past memories. Yenwu quickly ran into the store, trying to stop the situation because everything that was happening looked too dangerous and abrupt. The host was shocked, and viewers wrote that the hero was in trouble because he really did something that no one expected to see. The man did not understand how they dared to speak like that because he considered himself an ordinary merchant who was simply doing a job. He said they came to buy a spell book, trying to bring the conversation back to a calmer direction and avoid conflict. And he asked to let go of his hand first because the pain was becoming severe and he could not continue the conversation calmly. Hun suddenly released his hand, and the man began shaking it, trying to regain normal sensation after the intense pressure. The man said the spellbook he had just sold was his last and apologized for the lack of stock. He grinned, saying that he had nothing to offer in return, but he could recommend another shop that had the necessary things. And he said that to do this, they would have to provide one favor, hinting at an additional task that needed to be completed. The man was rummaging through his back pocket while the hero was dozing, and a thief quietly crept into the shop, creating an alarming commotion. And he took out a pendant, apparently the work of the hero's rival, the merchant Asel, who acts secretly and confidently. He asked if the hero would help catch the thief, trying to hide his own involvement and gain the trust of his interlocutor. The protagonist was surprised because the man gave a quest based on a blatant lie that caused doubt and irritation. Asal was the hero's true mentor in magic and benefactor as he studied under her. But he was once set up behind bars. The hero heard the words of a man calling him a cur as trying to humiliate him and break his moral state. It seemed that the hero had only learned to steal. According to the man who sought to completely destroy his reputation in the face of bribed guards and fabricated evidence, any excuses the hero made were powerless and lacked credibility. Hyun asked if they promised to give the spell book after completing the quest and clarified what would happen to the thief after he was detained. The man replied that Asal would also bear responsibility for the hero's crimes, trying to shift the blame and hide the truth. The future of the shop, according to the man, was obvious, as he was counting on profit while hiding his true intentions. The salesman narrowed his eyes and asked the customer what he would say about what was happening, trying to elicit the desired reaction from the hero. But the man didn't have time to continue because Hun took off acting quickly and not giving him time to deceive. Everyone in the chat was shocked, thinking that the hero was a growing, and they were discussing whether he really went there, not believing what was happening. Reaching out for the bag, Hyun told the scammer to shut up, showing his determination and unwillingness to tolerate further deception. He pointed to the bag, reminding the man that he had spoken of theft, and demanded an explanation, not allowing him to evade. The system announced a mission to apprehend the swindler, Julio, with a reward of 500 gold pieces, motivating the hero to act decisively. Viewers began actively writing that everything worked, suggesting a reset using the soccer truck, discussing what was happening. The hero didn't sell anything to people like the man, so he told him to get lost, after which he sharply kicked him in the face. He didn't even listen to anything because he understood the man's lie and decided to act quickly without wasting time. The merchant flew back and the chat exploded, discussing the loss of gold and the hidden mechanic that the Black Dragon had spoken of. Julio was asked if he had deceived the hero, and the audience wanted to re-roll, discussing the dance, after which they told him to go away. A guard appeared at the threshold and exclaimed what was going on, trying to understand the situation and restore order in the shop. Closing his eyes, the protagonist said that it was all over, accepting the consequences and understanding the inevitability of further events. The guards tied up the seller, acting confidently, and prepared him for further interrogation, not believing his excuses. And when they took him away, the man argued that he had done nothing. But his words did not inspire confidence in the guards. But he still ended up behind bars because the evidence was against him and the system did not allow for mistakes. The protagonist watched this silently, realizing that events were developing differently than in the previous game version. As the hero thought, everything is different than it was then, and this was the difference between the game and the real parallel world. In the game, the hero would have to fight his way through corrupt guards and hand Julio over to someone reliable for punishment. The system has announced the completion of the task. A new quest will open upon entering the Asal General Store. The reward has been received. Events unfolded as if everything had been staged, and the hero wondered whether to consider what was happening a simple coincidence. The friend whispered in surprise what was happening and asked how the hero knew all this without understanding the true reasons. The guy understood that his friend wouldn't believe the truth, so he decided to lie, hiding the real origin of his knowledge. And he replied that he loved fantasy novels because the plot was exactly like in an old work that he had read a long time ago. He really believed it because in the army, all he did was chatter about fantasy, not noticing the strange of what was happening. A donation notification arrived. An anonymous person donated 10,000 vox, causing surprise and joy among all viewers. The host lit up for the 10, calling his brother a beast, and was happy with the support he received during the stream. Observing this, the protagonist decided to leave everything to Yen Wu and do what he does best. If they went there, a shop would appear, and the hero wondered how much this would change further events and the development of the plot. Yen Wu was shocked as he had no idea that Asal was such an important character, and he expected a storm of discussion on the forums. Juan thought about it because he sent Julio to jail, and now all the other players also considered him a criminal. Because of this, Most players believed that an important character was a criminal and Estelle would be furious if she learned the truth. For the hero, Estelle was an important figure. But the girl behind the counter told him to find a job and leave, not tolerating empty talk. The girl behind the counter declared that if that was the case, the hero should move the goods and not live at someone else's expense. Showing strictness, she held out a book, suggesting that he study magic since carrying boxes all his life was an unworthy occupation. The heroine stood silently watching what was happening and was preparing to say something important, not hiding her own emotions. And then she said to raise her head, showing support and confidence, trying to encourage the hero in a difficult moment. She claimed that she knew perfectly well the hero's innocence, ordered him not to talk nonsense and wait, promising to punish the little rat. Having said this, she burned alive, leaving the hero in shock and creating a tragic turn of events that changes further events. As was a dear, but at the same time painful memory for the hero, evoking mixed feelings. Hun was silent for a while, considering the situation, trying to collect his thoughts and decide what the best course of action would be. After which he decided to open the door, overcoming doubts and fear because something important awaited him ahead. He did it hesitantly and slowly, as if he was afraid to see something that could change his future destiny. And he saw a familiar silhouette behind the counter which immediately evoked strong emotions and memories of the past in the hero. She slowly looked towards the guest, assessing his appearance and trying to understand the reason for the unexpected visit, and she was surprised, asking who he was because she saw the hero for the first time, not understanding why he came to her. And then she asked if he came to her because he knew who she was, trying to determine his true intentions. The protagonist replied that since he was a newbie, he was seeing her for the first time and he came to learn magic from her. She asked again if he really wanted to study magic with her, surprised by his determination and courage, and she came closer, calling him funny, asking why she should teach someone she was seeing for the first time in her life. Suddenly, she leaned closer to him, peering closely into the hero's face, trying to discern hidden details, and she declared that he was the very same black dragon, finally understanding why his appearance seemed strange to her. The girl smiled, realizing what was happening, and realized that the situation was much more interesting than it had seemed at first. Hun replied that it was true because Julio had framed her, making her look like a thief, and now the truth had finally come out. The heroine chuckled, calling Julio a scoundrel because she knew that one day he would definitely cause serious trouble. Then she fixed her hair, thanking the hero, because thanks to him, she avoided many problems. And she extended her hand for a handshake, saying that it was his actions that saved her from trouble and dangerous consequences. Having shaken her hand, the main character replied that it was okay since he also couldn't stand this unpleasant guy. The heroes began to whisper, discussing Julio because he had the face of a real swindler, which aroused mistrust. The girl asked if the hero was looking for the magic book, trying to understand his true goals and future intentions. But suddenly Hyen said to wait, as if he had noticed something important that required immediate attention and discussion. And he asked if she was looking for medicine because he understood this immediately, noticing the necessary item right on the table in front of him. He found out about this because the medicine was lying on the table and the girl was clearly hiding her anxiety and great worry. The main character said that he could help the girl, and she trembled, not expecting such an offer and support. She began to bite her lips, asking if he knew much about medicine because the situation was extremely serious. The guy briefly stated that he knew enough, showing confidence and willingness to help in a difficult situation. She asked what the name of the disease is that causes the pupils to turn blue, dizziness, and nausea. Hyun replied that he did not know the name of the disease since it was absent, but he understood its nature and characteristics. The girl was upset, saying that she knew it because she had been deceived many times, playing on her hopes and fears. All these experts were the same. Treatment, money, and time were wasted due to false diagnosis for profit. She had experienced so many times how hope turned into poison, leaving only pain and disappointment in the heart. But suddenly, the guy declared that potions and healing magic were not helping at all, and the patient did not even feel hungry. She held out her hands, asking if he really knew what kind of illness it was, because her hope flared up again. The protagonist calmly replied that the disease had no name, but he knew how to cure it and help the patient. The heroine began to ask for help, promising to thank the hero royally since she had no other choice. Hyun smiled softly, assuring the girl that he would definitely get the medicine because he couldn't leave her to suffer. The system announced a task, having discovered Avel's hidden worries, and ordered her to cure the illness from which her mother suffered. The guy yelled at his friend, saying he was a noob, and asking for a simpler explanation, as the system was giving complex descriptions. Simply put, rank was the level and class denoted rarity, determining the power and effectiveness of magic items. Even if a magic book was Tier 1, its effectiveness depended on its rarity, which greatly changed its capabilities. He didn't know that the first rank had a hero class, and even a guaranteed one, because it seemed like incredible nonsense. The protagonist thought about how the same book of magic could have different effectiveness, changing the outcome of events. This wasn't there in the other world, and he decided that the developers added it because everything here was a game. It looks like the hero will have to use the book himself to understand how cool this rare and unusual class is. Suddenly, Yin Wu's voice was heard shouting, asking where he should go as the situation was becoming chaotic. But before he could say anything, Hun grabbed his heart with his hand, feeling a strange feeling that made him wary. And the guy screamed, asking what happened because he thought that Hun was sick and was scared of what was happening. The main character simply replied that no, Mom had come. And his words sounded mysterious and unexpected to everyone. And he simply vanished into thin air, disappearing instantly, leaving everyone completely bewildered and raising many questions. As a result, Yin Wu's hero was left alone and did not understand anything, although he tried to comprehend what was happening around him. The main character ran out of the room and mentally called for his mother, explaining to her the need to take care of something important. The woman looked at her son with confusion and tried to understand his strange behavior at that moment. Then she angrily attacked her son, waving her arms and screaming that the door was locked and that he had never behaved like this before. Hun pointed to the bed and told his mother that Yan Wu had given him something for his discharge, and he decided to try it out. She asked her son about the strange thing with the notes and tried to remember what it was called. The woman warned her son that the news constantly talked about it and asked him not to play for too long. The hero replied with a smile that he would play a little in his free time since the internship began tomorrow. Mom turned around abruptly and said with obvious bewilderment that she was surprised by his internship because she had not expected anything like this at all. She again attacked her son in a fit of irritation and said that he had not even informed her in advance about such an important event. The woman waved her hand in an emotional outburst and asked her son how he could have acted so suddenly and without warning. The son held back his blow and told his mother that she would have stopped him if she had known in advance, and that is why it happened. She hit him in the face and said that a parent should not discuss work with a child after discharge. Hun held his face and sighed heavily, thinking that what was happening was much more difficult than when he fought with the master. The boy blushed and told his mother that after returning to university, he had his final semester and needed a job. The woman sighed heavily and tried to comprehend her son's words, which spoke about the future and responsibility. Then she said that the company was in Sando, and he would have to get up very early every day. The woman warned her son not to skip breakfast because she knew he had skipped it today. When the protagonist said that Yin Wu bought him a chocolate parfait, his mother asked if he considered that an excuse. Hyun glanced at his watch and thought about the stream, realizing that tomorrow was the first day of the internship and he needed to go to bed early. The man looked at his tablet and thought that no one would believe this nonsense since the fuss was caused by a hidden quest. It was Kim Ja, an employee of the small workshop's specialized RP department who was handling important tasks. The man wondered who this mysterious character was because he had searched for him and only found the names of monsters and the nickname Black Dragon. He could smell the edgy guy just from his username and tried to figure out his character and intentions. The man looked at the information and thought that even his mother had scolded this guy for his strange behavior. He stood up resolutely and told himself that he would have to go and see everything for himself without any unnecessary doubts. Yin Wu awkwardly told the audience that the situation was complicated and tried to explain what was happening as calmly as possible. He asked the audience to calm down first of all because the tension was growing and was interfering with a normal discussion of what was happening. Yin Wu said that Black Dragon Hun served with him and was a senior officer during his service. He added that his Hyang was a devoted son and always tried to fulfill his duties as responsibly as possible. The guy didn't understand what was happening with the number of viewers because there were too many of them in a short time. He was upset that their post was leaked to RPG and asked his Hyang to pick up the phone to explain the situation. The system sent a notification from the Black Dragon, who said that tomorrow was his first day of work and he was finishing. The Black Dragon sent a new message and said that he would leave a hint in return to help in the passage. The host smirked and told the viewers that his Hyang couldn't return due to personal reasons, but he left them a gift. The Black Dragon said that the cure for the quest could be obtained from bomb slimes and asked to keep an eye on them. The main character looked at the navigator on his phone and looked for his workplace, trying not to be late. As he approached the building, he told himself that today he would give it his all and prove himself to Kong Hanbit. He walked inside with a slight smile and said that he had come for an internship and was ready to begin his duties. But inside there was chaos as the staff discussed the lab and said that the changes had not yet been made. The man looked up and said that the intern was supposed to come in today and asked if HR was open. He snorted and said that he had already mentioned this yesterday, but no one had taken his words seriously then, as if he had been talking about something insignificant. Then his gaze turned irritated and he spat, showing his displeasure with what was happening around him. He irritably told Lehman Ho to take care of the intern and prepare the conference room for the meeting. A tired guy approached the main character and said that his name was Lee Miho and he was ready to help. He spoke like a robot and asked me to put down my bag and then promised to show me the table and explain the details of the contract. He said that the protagonist can just wipe the surface for now to start with a simple task. The protagonist began to wipe the board and tried to complete the task as carefully and attentively as possible. Suddenly, a voice was heard from behind asking why there were two interns present at the same time today. The man drinking coffee asked Hyun who he was and tried to understand the reason for his appearance in the department. The curator responded to the team leader in a calm voice, saying that the intern standing in front of him was the one he had previously reported to management about. The protagonist began to bow and said that he would work hard and learn everything during his internship. The man turned around and said that there was no need to try too hard, but simply to carry out the tasks given to him. He reported that the cleaning was finished and told the intern that he could go and continue his duties. Hyon walked out of the office and thought that he could already see the future of this company and his possible prospects. He sighed heavily and decided that he would have to learn everything on his own for the rest of his internship. He thought that such work was still better than tumbling around in that strange and dangerous world. The main character entered the game and massaging his neck said that he was there and the first day was too crazy. Yin Wu beamed and told his Hyang that everything was fine and there was no reason to worry or be concerned. The guy didn't understand what was happening to his face, and the main character snorted, saying that it looked terrible. A friend abruptly told his Hyang that they had hit the jackpot and asked him to look at the audience, which had grown to more than 5,000. The host announced to all viewers that they had officially begun the Untitled quest and were ready to begin the journey. He added that no one has yet overcome this difficult test and been able to complete it. Hun chuckled and said that people simply lack imagination and need to approach the problem more creatively. He firmly stated that he would show everything himself and asked the audience to watch carefully and not be distracted. As they walked, Yinwu asked his young if he was really a newcomer and asked him to explain his strange confidence. The protagonist replied that he had read a lot of fantasy and thought that in a game with such freedom, almost anything was possible. Ahead, people could be heard shouting, saying that everything that was happening was nonsense and that time needed to be killed. It seemed like the crowd had gathered after that community post which had generated a lot of interest among players. Then new shouts were heard announcing that the Vanguard had appeared here and attracted the attention of everyone present. The hero thought that people came because of the art spell quest since the reward gave a hero level and was very valuable. Young Wu whispered that this was truly a vanguard and that Hyong's discovery had spread much wider than expected. He wondered what exactly a vanguard was since his Hyong most likely didn't know such gaming terms. Yin Wu explained that the top 10,000 players in the rankings are called the vanguard and are distinguished from the rest. He said people are ranked based on level, skill, and story progress, determining their overall game status. Of the 300 million players, only 10,000 make it to the vanguard, and in Korea, there are only about 500 of them. The guy asked why such people didn't learn magic since some of them look like magicians or similar characters. Most of them skipped magic as skill was more important, and they focused on level noticing a participant with a bow. The protagonist recognized the golden bird's bow and remembered that the skill was quite good and was created by a high-level master. The friend went on to say that most of the avant-garde is owned by companies and receives corporate support. He said that such players receive significant corporate assistance to complete RP and difficult challenges. He added that even if a game has no property rights issues, RP still brings in money for the company. A girl approached him and said that he was the Black Dragon and asked when he would show the walkthrough of the quest. Suddenly, an argument started where one person said that everything was nonsense and the other asked to believe at least once. They started a fight, remembering that last time one of them believed the swindler and was completely robbed down to his underwear. Hun suggested going to the sea first to sort out the situation and begin preparations for creating a cure. He said that to create the medicine, you need a fishing rod, and without it, it is impossible to perform the necessary actions. Viewers were surprised why crafting content suddenly appeared, given that the hint was about explosive slime. Hun chuckled softly, thinking that people were completely misunderstanding what was happening and not seeing the obvious connections. A friend asked his Hung with confusion why they needed a fishing rod and whether the ingredients for the medicine were obtained from the sea. The protagonist just shrugged and said that who knows since the game often behaves unpredictably. Then the friend fell to his knees in tears and said that if everything turned out to be a lie, he would have to turn off the stream. Hyun decided to console his friend and said that he needed a fishing rod first, so he asked to borrow about 70,000 gold. Everyone was amazed by his request and said that he immediately went on to lend me so much gold, surprising everyone. A crowd of people began to appear on the street, gradually surrounding the area and observing what was happening. The heroes looked closely and noticed that there were even more people, and the crowd continued to grow with each passing minute. The protagonist said that he would soon return the gold, and his friend said that he did not understand why the Hyong was going to use the fishing rod. A conversation started in the chat where people were saying that it was Eldrak and that there was a strange feeling of unity around him. Hyun walked closer to the man and greeted him, saying that he would like to buy this fishing rod for the mission. Elrock asked him in a calm voice if there had been any accident, trying to understand the reason for his interest. The protagonist repeated to his grandfather that he could hear him perfectly well and promised to give him 50,000 gold pieces right now. A call to the Black Dragon was heard in the chat. The hero reminded that even in the game, one must always respect one's elders. Then the old man declared that he would never agree and firmly named the sum of 10 gold coins for him. Hun smiled at the old man and suggested settling for 6 coins, considering it a fair and beneficial solution for both of them. This old man hasn't changed at all. His swearing reminds the hero of how they used to fish together by the river in the evenings. The man snorted and said that young people today were too greedy, but still allowed the hero to do whatever he wanted without restrictions. The protagonist joyfully shouted about the great victory and thanked the sir, feeling that fate was finally smiling on him today. A friend told Hyun that streaming suits him very well and noted how naturally the character appears in front of the audience on screen. From the moment the hero promised to show something with a fishing rod on a field of slug bombs, the audience's interest grew. Yan Wu suggested trying a role, playing in-game, but the protagonist replied that he was completely uninterested in such entertainment. And then the presenter began to explain to the viewers that the bomb slugs are very sensitive, and if you touch them, an explosion will occur. A loud explosion was heard, and the protagonist realized how dangerous these creatures were, even when handled with care. The presenter added that even if you attack the slug bombs from afar, the reaction will still be destructive to those around them. He explained that they would still explode, leaving behind chaos, and therefore required players to exercise extreme caution. Even just crashing into them would have serious consequences, and the hero remembered this warning for the future in the game. The protagonist noted that it was easy to guess what would happen if he wasn't careful and decided to act as carefully as possible during the stream. Spectators were outraged, saying that even when the slug bombs explode, nothing falls out, and calling the situation complete nonsense. Everyone was wondering what the main character was going to do with a fishing rod against such a useless creature, because only he knew. Hun walked up to the artifact, found a suitable spot, and decided that this particular height would be ideal for it. He noticed that the sensitivity of the rod was slightly different from reality and began to carefully adapt to the new sensations over time. The protagonist realized that it would take time to get used to the controls and decided not to rush into the first steps. Suddenly, Hun's friend called out to him, getting his attention, and gestured that he had noticed something strange near them. He admitted that he felt like someone was following them and asked the hero to take it seriously. The protagonist frowned, said that he knew it, and began to listen carefully to every sound around the group. He noted that the pursuers were keeping their distance and had been following them since they left the city. The protagonist realized that this was not one team, but several groups, each pursuing its own hidden goals. Hun then asked his friend to give him the screen settings so he could better assess the situation and spot any possible pursuers behind him. And then the hero smiled at everyone, apologized to the viewers, and said that they would have to wait a little for changes on the screen. He asked for 1 second, promised that they would now adjust the screen a little, and continued calmly preparing for the fight. The protagonist admitted that he had always loved fantasy, finding solace and inspiration for his own life in fictional worlds. But no one in his squad shared this passion, and the hero often felt lonely among his comrades. All he could do was kill boredom by rereading the same book until the pages were almost completely worn out by time. This continued until a new recruit arrived, changing the usual routine and atmosphere in the unit. Then the protagonist asked the recruit if he knew this novel and carefully watched his reaction in response, and he replied that he had read it, added that one part in particular was especially good, and shared his impressions of the plot. The protagonist had read the novel countless times, but the newcomer began to point out interesting details that he hadn't noticed. The hero told the new recruit that he was really cool and thought that the guy had actually been to that world. Time passed, and the hero remembered an advertisement for a role, playing in a game that promised an alternative world, more real than reality itself. After service, he realized at that moment that if he played this with a friend, and he made a powerful swing, hoping that the trajectory would be ideal and the rod would withstand the load without the slightest hesitation. It was not without reason that I bought this fishing rod from Old Man Eldritch because it has special properties that help in battle. The hook here is a little special. Firstly, it is so sharp that explosive slimes don't even feel it when they touch it. And if you press this button, the mechanism inside is activated and allows you to use the hook's hidden function completely. Barbs emerge from the tip of the hook, creating additional pressure and helping to control the direction of the subsequent explosive impulse. This allows Hyun to control the explosion, keeping the situation under complete control and preventing the slimes from destroying the surroundings. As for slimes caught in the explosion, their shape changes, leaving behind unpredictable remnants of material. Suddenly, one of the slimes fell to the ground, leaving behind a trail that immediately attracted the attention of everyone watching nearby. The strangers were amazed by such an unexpected result because no one expected such behavior from an explosive creature, and one of them shouted that they had to retreat while they had the chance, although his voice trembled with fear and tension. But his gaze lingered on the tree branches above, where new slimes began to appear, ready to fall down. Slimes fell from above, creating chaos all around. and the heroes realized that the situation was becoming much more dangerous than it had previously seemed. The heroes shouted that everyone needed to run because any delay could lead to serious consequences for the entire group. Yin Wu was amazed by such power because he didn't expect that slimes were capable of creating such destructive effects around them. A Hyun just chuckled, thinking that this was how he elegantly dealt with the stream snipers who were watching what was happening. And I decided that now I could get down to business since the preparations were complete and all the necessary conditions were fully met. The chat started discussing whether all the slimes had exploded since the viewers hadn't noticed the remaining creatures among the rubble. What's wrong with this one? It's a different color, and the audience began to speculate, trying to understand the reason for this difference. The protagonist began to pull it up with the help of a hook, trying not to damage the material and maintain its integrity. And he threw it into the bag, believing that the materials had been obtained successfully, and now he could move on to the next stage of the task. The chat was confused as to why it didn't explode, as such behavior seemed strange, and viewers began to argue. It's definitely a misfire because if you destroy a group of explosive slimes at once, the remaining ones can mutate into misfire slimes. The friend was amazed because if he followed everything step by step, he would be able to complete the quest. Although this surprised him, Hun understood that it would not be easy for them to control the explosion because the situation required precision and attention from each participant. "Okay, let's head to a cell," said the hero, believing that the path ahead would be difficult, but quite doable for the group. "We almost got into trouble because the game studio and the role-playing department were working on small business projects. Employee Kim Ja turned out to be more than just some newcomer, as his experience and connections were much broader than expected. He had a large corporation behind him, and the hero was irritated that such support was being given to a man with whom they were in competition. I don't understand why he would even get involved with some no-name streamer since there is almost no benefit in it. Maybe their advanced team has dug up something, and they are using it to distract the players from important events. In any case, I need to at least complete a cell's quest, because this will allow me to move forward and complete the task. This alone will be enough to fulfill the monthly plan because the hero was counting on stable results and a calm report. However, Kim Ja would not succeed today as circumstances were against him and hindered his further actions. The girl grimaced and asked what he had brought her because the contents looked extremely unpleasant and suspicious. There was a nasty liquid in the plate, and she said that he had brought her a vile mixture and called it medicine. The protagonist didn't understand whether things were really that bad because he had hoped that the treatment would help and improve his condition. The heroine simply closed her eyes and sighed, showing that she was tired of what was happening and did not want to continue the conversation. And she said that she would pay him for Julio's treatment, asking him to leave because she needed to be alone. Hun noticed that it didn't seem like she was that worried since she was reacting too emotionally to what was happening. These words angered the girl because she considered them unfair and inappropriate in such a difficult situation, and she screamed that he knew nothing and was indignant that he dared to talk such nonsense now. And at the moment of the scream, he shoved a spoon into her mouth, trying to force her to take the medicine without resistance. And the girl involuntarily swallowed the medicine, although the expression on her face showed strong disgust and dissatisfaction with what was happening. How disgusting, she thought, because the taste was so unpleasant that it made her want to get rid of it. They wrote in the chat that the hero had too honest a face because viewers saw him mentally calling someone trash. The heroine was taken aback because he had just fed it to her, and she did not expect such an act from him. She started vomiting because the medicine was too strong and her body was trying to get rid of it, and she ran out the door for a while trying to come to her senses and catch her breath after the unpleasant sensation. And when she returned, she started yelling about what this meant because she demanded an explanation and was not going to tolerate such treatment. Juan asked with a smile if what came out looked like a seed and noted that the result might look confusing. And he continued saying that this was what was causing the illness, gradually destroying the girl's health and strength over a long period of time. The protagonist repeated again that this is exactly what he said because the reason was what she suddenly vomited. He added that she was also ill and admitted that he noticed this immediately by her pale face, realizing that the girl's condition had worsened earlier. Of course, she most likely suffered in silence, afraid that her mother would worry if she found out about her condition and began to worry. And she was afraid that people like Julio would use her weakness against her, turning her illness into a convenient lever of pressure. Knowing what she felt, the protagonist could not call her stupid because he understood her fears and doubts. Hun continued to explain, saying that what she had swallowed was the seed of a parasite that grew in the far south among the local creatures. He explained that she probably became infected by eating food brought from there, and only the slime of an explosive slime can separate the seed. That's why they needed a non-explosive slime. An explosive slime that doesn't explode, keeping only the necessary slime to cure the disease. The explosive properties are removed, leaving only mucus and toxins that cause vomiting, helping the body to get rid of the parasitic seed completely. As soon as you pull out this seed, everything will end. That is, it is not even a real disease but a parasite inside the body. The girl muttered for him to spit it out, but her voice trembled, betraying her fear and confusion in the face of the unknown treatment. And the main character took the plate and said that as soon as you pull out the seed, you will no longer need any medicine at all. And he advised me to go to my mother as soon as possible so that she could also receive treatment and get rid of the dangerous seed inside my stomach. Hun thought about Adel, noting that even though this is a world within a game, the feelings remain just as real for him always. He thought that Otspel had not changed, still the same as before, despite the time and trials that had passed. The stupid Otspel is always more concerned about the pain of others than his own, putting others above his own interests and desires. The protagonist remembered that Otspel could be harsh, but always remained by his side, supporting him in difficult moments. Atwell, the hero, thought, he just wants him to be happy regardless of the world and the circumstances around him which are changing. The girl sat closer to the bed and quietly said, "Mom, she brought the medicine, believing that it will help you today." And she held out a spoon, asking her to just take a sip, hoping that her mother would trust her and accept the treatment without doubt. She helped her mother sit down, supporting her by the shoulders so that she would feel more confident and not be afraid of the medicine. And then she watched as the woman swallowed the medicine, trying to detect the slightest changes in her condition and breathing. When her mother vomited, huge seeds fell out, and the girl imagined with horror how they grew inside her body. Just think how these charlatans deceived her, hiding the real cause of the illness and taking advantage of her family's gullibility and weakness. The girl happily declared that they would dance for her and promised that she would never let them leave it that easily. Hun felt warm. He thought that he hadn't seen her smile for a long time, and he felt relief and joy inside himself. The heroine had tears of happiness. She thanked him, saying, "Thank him so much because he saved them both today." And in the chat, they started writing that she was so beautiful. They did it. This is how they understand true love. The girl noted that both her mother and she are alive only thanks to him acknowledging his merit and help with her heart. So she said that she had to reward him because otherwise her gratitude would remain just words without any action. She handed over the spell book he was looking for, considering it a fitting reward for his efforts and kindness today. He replied, thanking her, and said that he should be the one thanking her since he received more than he initially expected. Yenwu said with a smile, "Bro, he's just the best. I can at least take a quick look at the book now." But the heroine stopped them, saying where they were going. She still had something for them. "Please wait a little." She held out the bag and said, "First of all, this is part of the reward that they earned for their perseverance and courage together." A friend noted that she seemed to be giving much more than she promised, and this pleasantly surprised and made him very happy. The system announced that a reward would be given for completing level 15 for the first time, noting the importance of achieving it. In the game today, the reward payout has been increased to the maximum. 2,000 gold turns into 4,000 gold, enhancing their capabilities significantly. The level is increased by 5. Additional attribute points are added +5, and the hero feels his strength gradually grow. A quest item, Cat Bell's heroic fireball, has been added, enhancing his arsenal and opening up new tactical possibilities in combat. The hero's fire elemental spell book has been changed, and the class has been upgraded from heroic to a unique category in the game system. The guy's laughter was heard. He said that he didn't know such a thing even existed and was genuinely surprised by this discovery. Yenwu couldn't believe it. The reward for the first completion was a unique grimoire. He considered it an incredibly cool achievement. And then the brother whispered, "Say something to the audience," hoping to hear a few warm words from the hero about the reward. But a commotion broke out in the chat, and a friend started yelling for everyone to calm down, trying to stop the growing chaos within the broadcast. He didn't understand what to do. The chat was moving so fast that he didn't even have time to read everything. The heroine handed over a piece of paper and said, "Here, take this, too," adding another part of the reward for him. Then the protagonist asked if she still had anything to give, hoping that the surprises did not end there. The achievement is unlocked. The first savior of a cell received an invitation from a cell and won a tribute point, which surprised the hero. The heroine extended directions to the forge, noting the need for weapons and suggesting they stop by at the first opportunity. She noted the hero's lack of proper weapons, as his equipment had broken after catching that slime bomb. Hyun was indignant, claiming that the unpleasant rotten smell was not coming from him at all, but from the slime bombs lying nearby and gradually decomposing. She smiled and thanked him for his help today, offering to contact her if he needed any support. The protagonist answered okay with a slight smile, showing calmness and confidence in his further actions. Yenwu noted that there is no fixed route because the world is open and one can go anywhere freely. Everyone starts their journey in Edlin, and then everyone chooses their own direction because there is enormous freedom here. However, wandering aimlessly can lead to high-level areas that are difficult for players to escape from. The friend continued to talk about character customization in RP, hinting that the hero could have chosen differently. He suggested taking a look at it because its appearance is realistic and beautiful, which inspires respect from others. He reminded that you can choose your gender, so a character's appearance can sometimes be quite deceiving. Hun sighed, realizing that he would have to decide for himself where to go next and where to start. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to an unexpected sound, which made the hero become wary and look around carefully. Respect for Taste donated 50,001, wanting to see a more evil cell on air. The host yelled at him, calling him Mr. Tastemaker and thanking him for his 50,001 donation. The protagonist exclaimed happily because he would receive 25,001 and would be able to use it. Suddenly, donations started coming in as Parasitic Plant donated 10,001. Then, Servo added 30,000. Flame Charisma donated 100,001, saying that fire is incredibly cool and awe-inspiring. My friend's eyes sparkled with delight because 100,001 is a huge amount and incredible support. He noted that the number of spectators is growing wildly, with 8,000 already watching the event. The protagonist was amazed because they had completed only one quest, and the number of spectators had already reached 8,000. Hun awkwardly thanked the viewers, quietly saying words of gratitude for the donations and attention to the stream. The protagonist understood that the total amount of donations was about 500,001. His share was 250. Yenwu struck a pose, announcing that he would now perform dance number 2. Thank you for the audience. The hero completed a quest in a cell and was surprised by what was happening because the earnings could be significant. Hyun clenched his fist, dreaming that now his mother would finally receive the debt he had long promised to repay. The goddess once showed him the flow of time in the real world in order to put pressure on him since he was considered a missing person. Then his mother gave up everything, dedicating her life to searching for her son and hoping to bring him home. From that moment on, the hero was going to make her happy, trying to correct the past and give her peace. A friend told his brother to try using the grimoire since all the spectators were waiting for a demonstration of a new skill. The book began to disappear in his hands, and the space around him began to glow with a red light of unusual power. He received a unique rank of Fireball, an attack spell capable of incinerating everything with a powerful explosion. The protagonist noted that the spell was not impressive since it had previously been given to him with great difficulty. Yin Wu beamed with happiness because the feeling of instructions pouring straight into his head caused incredible delight. Hun noted that he didn't feel anything like that, although he expected a strong effect from the spell. He then pretended to feel a delay, trying to hide the lack of reaction and keep up his friend's spirits. The hero was surprised because he had definitely learned the spell and did not understand why the sensation seemed strange. He speculated that skills from that world were manifesting here, creating an unusual connection between realities. This is how he understood what the developers meant by the existing character mentioned at the very beginning. Yin Wu shouted for the hero to use the spell faster. As the audience was eagerly awaiting the demonstration, a friend suggested trying to cast a spell on the stone to demonstrate the power of the fireball. The hero understood the need to focus on the palm in order to properly call forth the magical energy of the spell. He took a deep breath, gathering his inner strength and preparing to precisely execute the fire spell. He then summoned a fireball, feeling the heat of magical energy gradually increase and move forward along his hand. The hero launched a fireball into the distance, watching its flight and the power of the directed spell. The flame flew forward, leaving a bright trail and demonstrating the power of fire magic in action. Ahead, a rock exploded, demonstrating the power of the spell and causing surprise among everyone watching nearby. The explosion was impressive as the fiery energy spread widely and created a vivid spectacle for the spectators. Yin Wu admired him, calling him cool, which gave Hyun pride and self-confidence. Turning around, Hun said that it was not bad for a first rank, and the hero felt a slight pride inside himself for the first time. Suddenly, the hero's eyes filled with surprise as he realized the changes around him and felt the presence of an unknown force next to him, and everything around began to shake. The floor trembled under the hero's feet. The walls vibrated. The air became heavy and thick. Yellow eyes appeared in the darkness. They slowly approached the hero, reflecting the predatory gleam and silent threat of the night. The protagonist began to slowly retreat, feeling fear squeeze his chest and his steps becoming uncertain and heavy with each movement. But a huge hand appeared above him like the shadow of a giant hanging over the hero, promising imminent and inevitable danger for him. Hyan began to breathe heavily, his chest heaving, his breath coming in short bursts, his thoughts becoming confused, and his heart beating faster and faster. He received notification entry number 55, reporting mastery in all skills and increasing effects depending on experience. The guy's knees were shaking and he thought about that damn goddess, blaming her for what was happening around him at that moment. The protagonist couldn't catch his breath. His lungs were burning and his chest was constricted as if an invisible hoop was tightening his body completely from the inside. A cold sweat broke out on him because the hero realized that the goddess was still watching him and assessing what was happening carefully. A friend approached him, worried about the hero, and quietly asked if his bro was okay and if he had lost consciousness. Hyun knew that even if he told everything, his friend still wouldn't understand the true essence of what was happening nearby. He then asked Yin Wu to show him normal rank magic, explaining that it was his first time using high rank magic, which left him very tired. The friend said with a smile that the hero really wanted to see magic and was surprised by his persistent interest in spells. The friend sighed and said that okay, but the hero shouldn't laugh when he sees his simple magic. Finally, today the guy began to summon a fireball, focusing on mana, gestures, and words, trying to show his friend a worthy spell. It was important to him now, but suddenly the fireball disappeared, leaving only a faint puff of smoke, and the hero felt awkward in front of his friend and the viewers on the stream. Hun admitted that it was indeed weak for magic, and acknowledged his own inexperience, despite the high rank he had achieved today. A friend said he warned the hero right away that leveling up magic is tough, but he immediately received a unique rank without much preparation. The protagonist grinned and admitted that he himself didn't know it would turn out this way, surprised by the unexpected result of the rank he received. Everyone looks at the hero's unique rank, but the difference in skill should also be huge and not just the systemic rank. Suddenly, Hyun declared that his friend was misunderstanding magic and explained that magic could not be a simple click of a ready-made effect at all. He added that spells and mana management need to be calculated step by step. The difference in rank does not completely solve everything. And while the unique rank is cool, the hero doesn't plan on using the staff yet, considering the main advantage of magic to be convenience and a personal advantage. The protagonist reiterated that the main advantage of magic is convenience, so he doesn't plan to make it his main combat skill at all. A friend asked sharply since the hero had created the character yesterday and was surprised that he was already talking seriously about ranks and skill. People in the chat started yawning, thanking him for the lecture, calling him a chunabet, and joking that he was getting too into the role of a streamer. Spectators discussed how the hero had a unique rank, but he wasn't going to mean it, as if pride had taken over the black dragon's body. The protagonist screamed in his mind that they knew nothing about magic and felt irritated by the superficial comments of the audience.